Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs. You used to associate crickets with silence. But since you bought a house in the suburbs, you know crickets hate silence. If any other creature realized rubbing its legs together made a piercing, high-pitched noise, they might think, maybe I won't do that. Constantly. All night long. Luckily, you can save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. Now that's something to make noise about. Just not constantly. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Podcast. I'm Dani Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. All right. Listen up. If you are listening to this right now, you're hearing my voice in your ears in this very second. The Holistic HA Practitioner certification is open for enrollment right now. Yes. So if you're feeling the call to work with women with amenorrhea, to get their periods back, to help them get pregnant, optimize their fertility, this is the course for you. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Dani, this is a podcast for people with amenorrhea. True. This certification is not going to be for all of you. This certification is going to be for those of you who really feel that call, that the call that I had, the call that Ashley had, to make a change and fill the gap that the healthcare practitioners, the nutrition coaches, the health coaches, the fitness coaches haven't been able to do for us. So if you are a health practitioner, if you are a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, or if you aspire to work with women with amenorrhea in the way that we do, then you are the person that this is for. And it really takes a lot of the time people who have been through it to come out the other side and help the others go through it too, right? So if that happens to be you, maybe you're a few cycles in, maybe you are recovered, or maybe you're on your journey, but you can already tell, like, yeah, this is the change that I want to make, then yeah, the Holistic HA Practitioner certification is for you. Or maybe you know the healthcare practitioner in your circle who needs this information, or the personal trainer or the nutritionist in your sphere that needs this information. Pass the link on it. Not only are you going to have these skills and the tools that you need to actually feel confident as a coach and confident to go out there and actually help women and make a difference, but you're going to have the credentials too. This is an accredited course with the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. And Ashley and I are so excited to be launching the very first cohort of this. This means it's the best time to join the certification because you're going to get in the ground level. And the first 48 hours, we're doing the early bird pricing. You're going to want to get in on this. Do not delay. Check it out. thehasociety.com/certification. The Holistic HA Practitioner certification is going to be awesome, and we cannot wait to work directly with you to make you the best HA coach that you can be. See you there. Hey everyone, welcome back to the HA podcast. We have a different type of episode for you today.
Yeah, we do. I like switching it up. I really do.
Yeah, I like switching it up too. And as many of you guys know right now, enrollment for the Holistic HA Practitioner certification is currently open, which is, why we're doing this having this conversation, because that is truthfully a common question. Like, I don't know about you, Ash, but I'll get DMs of people who will say, hey, what did you study? Or how do you know if this is something that you're ready to do? It was a recent Q&A question we got on Instagram. So we thought, this is just a great episode to do in general for anyone who's like, yeah, my life was turned upside down by this. I see a bunch of benefit and I want to fill the gap in our system.
Or you're like, everybody I know actually has HA.
Yeah, like they're on the spectrum.
So I think that's interesting whenever like you finally like realize that you have HA and you're like, but I'm not the only one with this issue. And then like your eyes are open and then like you're looking at everybody like, is she ovulating? Does she have a period? And so obviously curiosity with compassion is, I think, one of the first things, right? That like you would probably really need. And the great thing is that I'm not the most compassionate person known to mankind, but when I coach, like it's just like this funnel of where I just like all this compassion comes from.
I like that. That's an interesting concept. I would agree that I don't just like have compassion every area of my life. And it was this massive thing that changed where I was like, I see. I think the moment I realized that a lot of people are going through and having the same inner dialogue and the same fears and stuff. Because I was, for those who don't know my story necessarily, when I had HA and I was going through recovery, I started drawing a lot and I started illustrating and like drawing and writing about the things that I needed to hear about at the time. And all these women were like sharing it and going, like sending me messages, be like, this is really helpful. And I feel the exact same way. And I was like, hang on a second. Wait. This is important. I have never had an original thought in my life.
Oh, yes. So I didn't really intend to go down the compassion route. It kind of just flew out of my mouth, but it's true, right? I think so. We'll just kind of address this first. I think what makes somebody ready to be a coach or has the ability to be a great coach is that over time, as long as you don't forget the absolute turmoil that you went through going through HA, and not saying that you had to relive trauma. I don't know about y'all, but mine was like, mine was next level. But if anytime I walk away from that, then it's like, I know I cannot serve my client because just because I have said during the day, increase your carbs. And even though I may have said that 12 times today, for that person receiving it, it could be the first time, it could be the second time, it could be such a vulnerable spot where they're like, I know I need to, but I don't want to. And so really the truth without compassion, well, I absolutely believe this, the truth without compassion is just really, really like rude because it's just so rude. And so, but like one of the things is that truth delivered around this topic is already going to be harsh because it goes against every single thing we want to believe, right? So to deliver truth in anything other than compassion really starts to become like either prideful, where it's just all about your ego, you're just being selfish. And so I really think that it's like, we have to make sure that when you are coaching with a compassionate hat on, that everything has to be filtered through that lens. And so I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, well, I'm not a compassionate person. Have you met Dani and I outside of coaching? No, we are not compassionate people.
Yikes.
But this is so close to our heart that we absolutely coach with compassion.
Yeah. It's truly the only reason we're doing this. There was definitely no moment where we're like, oh my gosh, like cha-ching, market that hasn't been touched, like let's create a coaching practice. Like, no. And I think anyone who works in fitness, I mean, maybe people don't know this, but in like fitness personal training space, for example, that's not if you want to get rich, like that ain't gonna be where,
right?
You know what I mean? And I think that there's an element, where people who go into personal training, they do it out of like they had a huge transformation of their life themselves, And so that tends to be like why they go down this route. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's like a lot of the time why dietitians become dietitians. And it's you had such an impactful change in your life and your confidence that you want to pass it on to other people. And that is what happens all the time in HA. I don't think people go through IVF and they're like, oh my gosh, IVF, I'm going to become this like IVF advocate. I don't think that happens, because I don't think it changes people's lives in the way that going through this process of like learning to fuel yourself and have compassion and look after yourself, like the way that truly opens your eyes.
Well, it's one of those things that in order to recover, you do have to swim upstream. And it takes so much out of you to swim upstream. Like not saying that an IVF journey isn't swimming upstream, but it's one of those things of like, everybody in the world is telling you to lose weight and you need to possibly gain weight. Everyone's telling you to cut out carbs and you possibly need to add in carbs. Everyone in the world is telling you that your exercise routine is fine because you're so disciplined and you're so fit. But what your chart is telling you is that like, oh my gosh, like I am under recovered and I'm not feeling enough and I have suboptimal cycles, right? Or I don't have a cycle at all. And so it's having to do all these different things that like you didn't do before, or that's not celebrated. And so in order to help someone keep swimming upstream, you've got to be able to remember what it's like being in their shoes, swimming upstream yourself, and what that felt like, and what were the things that you needed, along with some of the things of what they need. Which kind of brings me to my next thing of how do you know that you're ready to be a coach is if you're willing to be curious and ask really good questions.
Say more.
Yes. So think about coaching is actually not about telling people everything what to do.
Coaching, with that.
Everybody does.
Yeah, because you're like, I need the answer, and then you have to bring it back. Like, hang on a second, it's not my job to always know the answer. Yes. Meaning like, are you willing to stay curious with them? And like, so it's like one of those things of asking. So even though you know the answer, most of the time in a coaching session, like you will know the answer probably relatively soon. And then like you have to spend the rest of the time asking questions that leads them to have that own, like their own aha moment, their own discovery moment. And so if you like seeing people have that aha moment and that light bulb click and things be like, oh my gosh, then that's a great sign that you are ready to be a coach. And it's like one of those things I had to like, so like when I first went through my counseling training, I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I think I've been communicating wrong for my entire life. And I just stopped talking for like 6 months. I was like, I'm just gonna stop. Anyways, but it was just really, I had to realize that it's not just enough to encourage somebody, but I have to be able to be quiet enough to let them have their own moment and willing to step out and not be the one that always has the right answers, but is willing to facilitate them finding the right answer, and so that's not an easy skill. So I don't want you guys to feel like, oh my gosh, guys, this is such a tall, list, but are you willing to like celebrate somebody having that moment? Instead of it being about you always knowing the answer? I think that's a great sign that you're ready to be a coach, is that you're like, yeah, I do want to facilitate somebody having that moment for themselves. Yeah, I think what's comforting about this is a big fear for people is like, I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the information, so I can't serve necessarily. But you actually just need to be someone's partner in finding the answers, which can mean, yes, just listening, asking them the right questions and guiding. Sometimes I know, yeah, there are times where I leave calls and I realize like, wow, I shared a lot of information. Like I spoke a lot. because I when you have coached for so long and had so many conversations, you kind of do have a lot of insight that you could share, and you have to like actively pull back on it sometimes because you just talk a lot. And it's not that people don't appreciate it because they're learning a lot from that, but they didn't get their opportunity to have that moment. And so you're like, okay, well, next, I'll make a note that next session I'm gonna shut up.
Oh my
but
gosh,
all of that
yes.
will happen. But the good news is your job's actually to get them talking. And I like that a lot because it
Oh
means
my
you
gosh,
don't,
yes.
it takes the pressure away. And I think like my early days, and you're just going to go through it, but my early days,
Yeah.
I would talk to like my coach or my therapist, because a therapist is like so similar to what we do that I got to just like, I would ask
Yeah.
her opinion. But I would feel like I would have so much anxiousness, like I'd be sweating before calls, and like, just super nervous, and went through this whole process and of realizing I don't have to have those answers. I just have to like lean on my compassion, my ability to be curious, my ability to ask the right questions, and like maybe some of my knowledge. And then I can just show up. And since then, I have not broken a sweat before a coaching call at all. Like I do not feel any stress
Yeah.
about a client's name being on my calendar on that day.
Yeah. I like you brought up so many good things, and so I don't want to forget. So remind me, I'm gonna circle back to, oh gosh, it
Write
just
it
left my
down.
brain.
Oh no.
No, being that you don't know, right? So, but like you had said something, oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so good. Okay, so well, let's just address that first.
Not knowing,
Oh,
talking too much, not
oh
giving
yes,
them their
yes, yes.
moment.
Someone said this to me, it was so profound that I about fell out of my seat. I was like, it takes confidence to be quiet,
Oh.
to be silent.
You
It
used to tease
takes,
me in the early community
yes,
calls because I hated when
I
people would be
know.
silent.
Yeah, it takes confidence to be silent and let that person go through like just an uncomfortable, awkward, they're just crawling out of their skin because because like in that moment they're wrestling, oh my gosh, I may actually really have to reduce my exercise because I've known that was always it. You know what I mean? I have intuitively known that was it. And now we're talking about it. And so it's like our silence allows them to navigate that. And because we're human, like we want to jump in and save them from the awkwardness or like save them from, just feeling like, no, I don't want to feel this way about having to give up exercise. But if I save you all the time, you're never going to have your transformation moment. So instead, I could be silent and have compassion and let you have that moment and then comfort you as soon as you get out of that moment and reassure you and then so like reassure you that this is the right move, provide you education on why it is the right move, and then provide you testimonials of how somebody else has recovered with this right move, right? So our silence is such a great partner with education, encouragement, and structure. The other thing is I think it's powerful. I personally actually just hired somebody who was like, you know what, I actually don't know, but let me circle back to this one person who like does know, or I'm going to call the labs and then I'm going to get back to you. When she said that, I was like, boom, that's my person, because that's a thinker. That's someone who doesn't try to know it all. I actually don't trust people that come off as know it all or like yes people. I don't trust you because I know, first off, I know that you don't know it all. And two, if you are a yes person, then that means you have no boundaries. And I actually can't depend on you because you potentially have said yes to everything and everyone else. So for me, like those are two big like red flags for me. So to be able to say, I mean, I say this all the time, you know what I mean? Like I have this one client, she actually, which is interesting, Dani, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but I'm starting to see more clients with chronic pain. And I have a whole theory and some science to back it up. But as I'm forming this theory and as I'm researching, I will say, I actually am not a pain management specialist. That is not my, like my zone of genius, but I have a few thoughts. Give me a couple weeks. I'm going to like Google a few things. I'm going to dive into the research, and then I'm going to just kind of tell you what I think it is. And then I want you to go talk to your doctor about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not here to I'm not here to solve every single problem. And like when it comes to HA, there is a host of symptoms that come along with it. And I do know that getting them ovulating and having 3 to 6 months of estrogen and progesterone flowing is going to solve majority of those things, but I can't, and I don't have the capacity to solve every single problem that they have. Some things really do need to be worked out. And then my last point is, only because I've been watching so much Magic School Bus with Nuggie, if you notice, Miss Frizzle takes them on.
This show.
Oh, you need to, well, wait till Zara. Miss Frizzle takes her class on a field trip. She always knows the person in the end. They're like, of course Miss Frizzle knows her or knows them. And she always knows the answer. She always knows the right way. She always knows the answer, but she facilitates her kids like learning, failing, trying again, and then coming along and like whenever they need help, giving them a hint so that they have this whole, so like the whole episode is about them learning something, and she knew it all along. But they're, you know what I mean? But they're so engaged, and it's so part of their memory, and it's part of their learning experience because she facilitates the learning experience. She's not sitting up there lecturing me, and then it's this, and then it's this, and then it's this, and make sure that you take notes, and then this is it. You know what I mean? Like that's not what she's doing.
Right.
So I'm just saying, if there's anybody with kids and they've watched one too many Magic School Bus, if you feel like you would be interested in facilitating someone's learning journey that way, you know what I mean? Then I think that's a great sign that you're ready to dive in.
Yeah. I like that. I like that analogy. It makes me think of all of the Bluey learnings, which I won't dive into, but that's a good show. Okay. So yes, the way that one of the ways you know you're ready is if you are ready to listen and be willing to help other people find the answers. You know, I learn things from clients all of the time because they've done their deep research. And they're like, oh, I read this thing. And they're like, oh, tell me more, you know? And it's like someone to share that with. Okay, what's another one, Ash? One of the next reasons or ways that you know that you're ready, right, is not necessarily because you've been recovered for a certain amount of time. Right. It's that you feel that you are steps ahead of others at all, I think, personally. The way that I know that this is true is from seeing women in the HA society coaching other women through the steps that they were in not that long ago. And also from myself having the audacity to start a coaching practice within a year of having recovered myself. Quite truthfully, that's exactly what happened. I hadn't definitely started with significantly less knowledge than I have now. Prices reflected as such, which is important. I think I charge like $60 a month for weekly coaching. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's like, that's called an internship. And I'm
paying you to work with you basically at this point.
Yes. No, exactly. So but you know, you just need to be a little bit further along to guide people. I think your level of experience is just, you know, and what exactly you have to serve and to offer is reflected in pricing and is different. But, you know, in a nutshell, you're ready to help others if you find yourself in communities or having conversations with other people, advising them on aspects of recovery. It shows it shows that you have that muscle in you. you have that compassion and that desire, and you do have some knowledge and some experience to share. You can learn the rest, right? You're ready because you're already doing it.
Yeah. And I also think, yes. So think about like one of those things again of what you've been through. Potentially there's a part of that someone else may need, or all of it, you know what I mean? And I just actually think that as long as we are open to learning, Danny and I had just started this coaching thing. And one of the things that she was saying is that um out of like, I think it was like what value, joy, or something like that. I don't even know. I was just paying attention to this one nugget, but they were saying that
Value, joy, and skill.
value, joy, and skill. That skill is the only one that you could actually increase, like learn, like, like through learning, meaning that your skill is never, well, I mean, it could be if like you choose to feel like you know everything and you're not committed to learning. So that's a whole other issue. But as long as you're committed to be a lifelong learner, your skill is always going to improve. Always.
Yeah. It's in fact, there's some downside to sort of studying the skill first. Like skipping too many steps ahead.
No. I mean, like we can like go there, but what was that like? You're on the top of Mount Stupid whenever you think that you know everything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so good, because as long as you are committed to learning and you're committed to like not being saying like, saying that I don't know everything that there is to know, and I'm not ashamed about that because I'm committed to learning. I think that's what makes you a great coach, because it brings in that compassion. You're humble, you're willing to be wrong, and your whole identity and worth isn't about being right. I just thought that was so good.
Yeah, no, it is really good. And when you think about like, if you're waiting till you have the skill, it's like not physically, like think of anything in the entire world that is a skill that can be learned immediately without going through like the Bambi wobbly legs phase. I think about how like what some of the hardest part of the work is like helping people through very emotional moments, and that is impossible to know how to handle prior to being faced with it. And you will what's a good word for this? You will sometimes not successfully serve your clients through those when you're new, because they're really hard and you haven't seen those types of meltdowns and heartbreaks and things enough times. But after a while, not only are you really good at spotting them and helping them. Are you all about DIYing your recovery? Then you'll want to visit our HE Society resource store. We have created a bunch of amazing tools, guides, templates specifically to help you navigate recovery, find your own blind spots, and track your progress along the way. So you can browse through our store and you will find endless avenues to help you with your unique challenges, from our 100% free Mental Hunger Mindset Mastery workshop to our 7-day recovery kickoff challenge. We also have in-depth, budget-friendly, do-at-your-own-pace courses like our Restore program. It's an incredible 10-module recovery guide that comes with access to the HA Society for a full year. The Fertility Awareness for HAs courses, teaching how to use the FAM method to track progress through recovery. The Period Recovery Game Planner, which helps you figure out your blind spots, what is and isn't serving your recovery, what are you not doing that you could be doing to help you move forward, and even journal pages and journal prompts that are designed specifically to help you with body image and mindset throughout recovery. And not only can you access these killer recovery tools from our store, but you can also head there to join the HA Society community, which is open. And by far the most valuable thing you can do for your recovery is to find a support community like this. The HA Society gives you access to live community calls multiple times a week, mini courses, and a full private podcast playlist for you to catch the replay of every single community call and get all of the HA podcast episodes early. So visit our resource store today. Take advantage of all of the tools to help you fast track your DIY recovery journey. I guarantee there's something in there specifically fitting for you that will help you on your way. So you can go to thehasociety.com/store. And now on with the show. But you see them coming in advance because you know what it looks like. You've seen different types of people and how different types of people think and operate, and those sort of allow you, like you then create categories in your mind. It's actually quite an organized thing that you can start doing, and it's the only way to get really good at what I think, I'm curious what you think, Ash, but what I think is one of the most important parts that you cannot learn until you start doing, which is reading between the lines of every word that everyone says. Woo! When I started, I had a hard time with this. This was like, people say what they feel or believe, and it's really hard for you to you just empathize with them and you want to tell them how it's not true. But like actually what they're saying isn't directly what they need to talk about, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh. I can go on for this forever. Yes. So, I mean, thankfully, by the time I got to coaching HA, I have been coaching for 5 years. And so, I mean, so like my first year coaching in general, but then before that, I taught kindergarten double PE. So I had 40 kindergartners. So, I mean, could you imagine like the emotions there? And then I taught health in middle school. Middle school. They're so wild. So thankfully, when I first started my even teaching career, I had little to no skill. Every single year in every single situation gives you context, so that now the things that I'm pulling on now is like when I was probably dealing with a kindergartner crying at me about something, or you know what I mean, or passive aggressively choosing not to do something. Hence why I know that you can't force anybody to do anything, because I couldn't force a kindergartner to get on a lie, right? You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things. And so it's like every single experience you have is going to teach you, as long as you remain teachable. Now that doesn't mean that you're not confident, but meaning that, like, let's be confident in the things. Like, I'm confident that I can be a good listener. I'm confident that I can meet you with compassion. I'm confident that I have, gone through the course. And honestly, Dan and I have put so much in there of every type of experience we have come across, like when it comes to symptoms, those types of things. So you are actually, instead of having to have my 4 years of teaching, my 5 years of coaching, and then my like 3 years of like HA coaching, like you get all of that in there from my experiences, right? So you get to build off of what we've learned, right? So like you're not starting at ground zero. You know what I mean? Just like technically I didn't start at ground zero because I had an internship when I was teaching, right? So like I was learning from somebody. I mean, that was a horrible internship, but at least I learned what not to do. So it is beneficial. But it's like one of those things of every single situation you have is going to teach you how to navigate that person and or someone that's similar. And so you won't get experience unless you get started. There's no way that you're going to be able to study enough without being able, because think about, like, you can actually go to a mindset coaching, but until you apply it, it's not yours yet. It's not your knowledge. It's not in your toolbox, as long as it remains on the screen through like an instructional video, it has to come out of that into the tangible world, and you have to try it before you can even take ownership of it, right? So at some point, like you can study and actually never help anybody. I know.
That
was
hits.
good.
We were just
I
talking
know.
about that earlier. Yeah, we're not like that, and I think that I don't want to like toot our own horn, but we didn't create this like course and this practice with the total opposite of what we're telling you right now, if this makes sense. Like we didn't have some moment where some like Kim Kardashian like promoted our business and it blew up. That has never happened. That'll be great, but it hasn't. We did not go to school specifically for this issue. We are not medical doctors that have like something behind our name that we can sort of just use as a it's just like super handy. You just say, I'm a doctor, like boom, what are you going to say? We didn't have any of that. We didn't have a ton of experience building practices online. We had some, but not a lot. And everything we just went through, it's like we started with just by having some curiosity, by being open to like giving this a shot and making some mistakes and learning along the way. And with time, it's funny, Ashley and I are really going through the business right now and tightening up some things in our messaging and our offering, and realizing like, wow, look at all this stuff we built. That's actually like 75% of the way there. It just needs some finessing for us to like really get to that next level in our practice. But wow, we really, really, really built that out of nothing and made a ton of results for people along the way, and invented our own strategy for getting results that just was built over the course of working with a client, fumbling through, getting a result, sharing it with each other, adding it to our process, and then like now we take everyone through a very similar specific like process to help make sure that they're getting the same result every time, rinse and repeat. And that, y'all, was like built from, depending on who you are right now listening, potentially less experience than you have right now, like less traditional level of qualification. We went and got our education and got that qualification and stuff, but we started the business first, and then we went and got that stuff, which is like, not everyone has to do it the way we're doing it, but we're telling you, like, you cannot say to us you're starting in like, further back than we started, and we have a full-on like successful practice. So I think that's pretty damn cool, and encouraging, that if you want to do it, you're ready. And it doesn't mean you have to go out tomorrow and start working with people, not necessarily advised, but it does mean like you have full permission to begin the process, whatever that looks like for you, whether it is gaining some education, or whether it is turning to someone like joining the HA Society and coming in a call and speaking up and providing feedback and advice to someone, or whatever it is for you. So you're ready.
Yeah, I love that, because honestly, I mean, now we have a proven process. You're right. Like we have a specific proven process that we take everyone through. But that was really something that we created to meet the need, because nobody else is teaching it. You know what I mean? Like, we're not rocket scientists, you know what I mean? But nobody else is doing it. And I think after a while, whenever you hear so many stories of women being told to freeze their eggs, and you're like, but why? You know what I mean? And again, nothing against that, but honestly, at the end of the day, and one of the things that I like to really hone in on is that by doing this job, you are simply providing the full context, like the other side of like the things that they have learned, whether it's about blood sugar levels, yes, but it's been so warped through Instagram and all these other things. But now, like, you're just telling them the other side so that they have a complete information about it, and now they can make an informed decision, right? So it's really just, there's so much power in educating women so that they can make their own decisions. That's really what it comes down to. So one of the things, I still chat with her. She was in the HA Society, and she had posted, "Hey, my doctor told me that I need to freeze my eggs." And come to find out, 3 different doctors told her that she needed to freeze her eggs.
Okay.
Here's the kicker. She was in her 4th recovery cycle, ovulating just fine. And she still had doctors telling her to freeze her eggs. And then she accidentally got pregnant on the 5th recovery cycle. And and so I was able to, I said, "Hey, that's interesting. Can you send me your labs? Like, do you have a chart? Like, I haven't dealt with anybody being told to freeze their eggs yet. You know what I mean? But I was like, okay, if someone's telling you to freeze their eggs, I'm just curious. What do your labs look like? What are they seeing? That they're just like, oh my gosh, you instantly need to freeze your eggs. Please come in and freeze your eggs, right? And so I was like, can you just send me and I'm expecting like horrible labs.
I want to learn what this
conclusive. Because think about, whenever you look at my labs, my estrogen was less than 6. My FSH and LH was like 0.02. I'm not saying that I have the worst labs or I had the worst labs on the face of the earth, but what I'm saying is that it was pretty bad. You know what I mean? And nobody told me to freeze my eggs. So I was like, I am just interested. And I'm like bracing myself about how horrible these labs are going to be. You know what I mean? And come to find out, her doctor was going off of FSH that was in the luteal phase rather than FSH in the follicular phase.
She had 4 recovery periods at that
4
point.
recovery periods. Yeah. So mind you, I'm like, now like the story is getting even more interesting. I'm like, hold on, wait, let me pause. Like, you're ovulating. She's like, yeah. How many recovery periods? 4. And I'm sitting here like, am I crazy? Is this not adding up? And then when I looked at the labs, I said, okay, so why did they tell you? Again, asking questions. Why did they tell you that you needed to freeze your eggs? Well, because my FSH is so low. I was like, oh, okay. And I looked at it, and it didn't look, it wasn't 0.2, I'll tell you that much, right? So again, I was like, okay, like I think it was maybe around like 5 or something, like maybe 4 or 5. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. And mind you, I've seen tons of labs like this, and none of my clients have been told to freeze their eggs yet. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I said, by chance, do you know when these labs were taken, like what part of your cycle? And so she looked at the date. She looked at when her like cycle charting, and she goes, oh, it was on cycle day like 25. I was like, well, I 100% expect your FSH to be low in your luteal phase. Like, that's not exactly when it's the highest. And so I was like, well, this is what I think. And
was it a regular GP? All 3 were like regular GPs, or
dude,
surely they weren't gynecologists or.
Well, it was 3 different doctors telling her, or 3 different times telling her to freeze her eggs. So it would have had to been somebody specialized up higher. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this stuff happens all the time.
And I didn't have the answers before, but I just simply said, okay, just out of curiosity, would you, before you freeze your eggs, I would probably just get your FSH tested in your follicular phase so that we just have an accurate reading of where it's truly at.
Can't tell you how many times it's often just like of course it reads that way because you took it at X point in your cycle.
Exactly.
All the time.
So what I'm saying is that I didn't come to the table with some I don't know everything there is about freezing eggs. I don't even know the process. And I didn't need that. I just needed to be curious and take the basic information about
Mhm.
when to test your labs and apply it to what we're seeing. So my whole point is that I didn't need to know everything there is on freezing eggs, you
You
know?
just needed to know like how the female reproductive system works and what makes sense, which is what we teach in the course, right? Like
Yes.
we don't actually teach you how to pull labs. This is a holistic HA practitioner certification, so there is no like lab pooling. This is like, how do you help people by just having a very robust knowledge of HA, and then versus what a normal reproductive system is meant to look like, and then how do you review someone's life and mindset, connect the dots, and then like guide them through like
Mhm.
their doctor's appointments with them.
Yeah, and so in the course, while like we don't order labs from somebody, we 100% give
Not
you.
yet. One day.
Yeah, yeah, not yet, guys. Hang on to your pants. We getting there. But like we teach you, this is what the optimal ranges are. This is what we've seen. So, like again, like we're giving you our knowledge. This is the lowest I've ever, like we tell you, like this is FSH at the lowest that we've ever seen, and this is the highest that we've seen. Like this is what we've seen in improvements. And so it really is one of those things of I don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at somebody's labs and just ask questions that clearly somebody missed when trying to convince this person to freeze their eggs 3 times.
Mhm.
And then we have another podcast episode with Karina, and she was told to freeze her eggs. And I was like, again, I'm not
Yeah.
a
That's
professional
the
in this.
February 16th bonus episode if y'all missed it.
Yes, it's coming out. Well, yeah.
It's
So
out.
yeah, it is. I'm just looking at the calendar, you know what I mean? And so I just naturally had a few questions of, hey, how does estrogen or never having estrogen because it's primary amenorrhea affect your AMH levels? Again, I don't have to be a rocket scientist, but we do have to like ask questions, think
Mm.
critically. And so I think we all have the ability to do that, or we have the ability to learn how to do that. Again, we're not like we weren't born with this knowledge.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
that's the other thing with the certification too. This is a big part of why we're adding in the mentorship. So there's like
Oh yes.
after if you join within the first week of enrollment, so it's like a fast action bonus type thing, you'll get that included for free. So you can come and chat with us and like bring your case studies every month. Hey, this is like something I'm seeing. I don't, have you seen this in practice? Getting that advice and guidance, that's something that's an option for people who really want to take this type of stuff seriously. So we are very excited that the holistic HA practitioner certification is currently open for enrollment. At the time of this listening, I have no idea. Let's look. Of course we're recording a little bit in advance.
I mean, I look forward to having people to mentor through this. Like I like this is my zone of genius, is like pouring into people, pouring into other coaches, because I don't have any ego about keeping my knowledge to myself. Like I am here to empower other women to also empower other women. And so
Mhm.
I'm hoping someone takes advantage of that fast action, because I want to mentor you.
Okay, so I have it here. So I'm glad I checked, guys. So this episode is coming out on March 15th. So enrollment has been already open for 2 weeks. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have the fast action bonus be the first 2 weeks
Okay,
of
deal.
enrollment. So basically, you have until Friday, the 17th, to get the mentorship thrown in. But if you listen to this too late, don't worry. We're still going to be providing an option for people to purchase to have access to that mentorship. It's not going to be inaccessible if it's something that you really want. So definitely head over. And if you're really, really on the fence and you're like, look, I hear what you're saying, but I, worry that I have this and this, and I just don't know if this is going to work for me or whatever, book a call with us. If you go to the hasociety.com/certification, you can book a call with either Ashley or myself, and we will just chat with you. It's a no pressure, no commitment call, just help you figure out if the certification is right for you right now. Talk you through how it works, but it's going to be a bunch of fun. Is Ashley and I giving you our everything that we've learned. We have really poured a lot into the entire course from start to finish, everything of like, what is HA? Why is it happening in our world? How is it presenting from the outside? How is it presenting on the lab work? And then all the way through to coaching strategies, special circumstances like primary HA, PCOS, and HA at the same time. Other like interesting tidbits here and there that I think that you may not expect are really huge pieces of HA that we have in the course. So it's not just like, hey, energy in, energy out, no period. If you're not eating enough, it's like, hey, here's the direct impact on the endocrine system when you are going through an acutely stressful event versus when you're going through a chronically stressful event, and how you can identify this in an individual client, all the way through to like what we were talking about before. Hey, clients are saying this. Here's how to read in between the lines of what this really means.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back that I have added in some case studies of, individuals with digestive issues, which I know is kind of like a big thing. And then, like she said, like woven between everything is, here's not how to force your client to quote unquote eat clean because that's optimal nutrition. This is how you get your client to eat more so that they can restore their thing, so that they can restore their energy balance and restore ovulation. And then if it's important to them, you know what I mean? But what is important to you doesn't mean it's always important to them. Like, so again, rather than it being about you, it's about them. And plus, once they get curious themselves, hey, what are your thoughts on optimal eating? You know what I mean? And maybe that's further down the line once their energy balance has been restored and they're not in a restrictive mindset. Maybe that's the place where you share, but leading with that may not always be the best. You know what I mean? So it's just something to consider. What are their goals? Not what are your goals for them? What are their goals?
Yeah, I think that's something that makes the certification really unique, is that it's not really just like the academic, what you need to know from the textbook, or even what we see in practice in terms of like labs and symptoms. But yeah, also like, how do you build that rapport with your client? How do you build trust so that they are in a confident and supported state in order to make the change they need to make, and giving you the like roadmap and the skills and the tools to identify what a client may need to hear. Because yeah, it's not always what you default or what you think they need to hear, or even what you specialize in, And so sometimes, yeah, you need to get really curious to be like, I wonder if what would work for me in this situation may not work for this person in terms of like a reframe or something like that. So there's a lot to glean, because I think a lot of us would agree that HA is half, if not more, a psychological challenge. So
oh yeah,
pretty interesting.
yeah.
So learn more, guys. Enrollment is open right now. So learn more at thehasociety.com/certification and see if this is going to be right for you. This is our first ever launch of the program. So there is the early bird price, which will be going up on the 17th. And then, quite frankly, we'll probably raise it again for the next cohort.
Oh yeah.
So this is definitely like, if you are I love being in on the ground level of something, this is definitely an opportunity for you. We cannot wait to see you inside of the HAP certification.
Yeah. Look forward to journeying with you guys.
Okay, you can stop the recording.
Get ready, because Scott's is taking over daylight saving time. It's such a big event that we're calling it Day-Long Saving Time. And now it's got real savings. In fact, it's the biggest deals of the year. Audacious? Absolutely. So don't wait. Stock up early and you'll be able to save up to $20 on Scott's Triple Action and Easy Seed products today at the Home Depot and Lowe's. Offers available March 9th through 22nd at select U.S. stores, while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See store for exact offers.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much, because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women